morning, everyone. How are you? Gosh, I'm in my hometown, 39 years old, Denver, Colorado. It is so good to see all of you guys' faces and to really be able to see what we have going on at this Recovery Leadership Summit. As you guys know, my name is Sparkle Lindsay, and I'm a motivational speaker and author and a national recovery coach, professional facilitator. Now, as of May 4th, 2024, I am 5 years sober. And to you all, I'm a woman in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I get to be in recovery every day and show up as myself, authentically and unapologetically. Every day, just me. So today, what I want to do is thank each and every one of you guys for showing up today. And I hope you all know it's an honor for me to be here in Keynote speak, especially in my hometown. Today, we're going to talk about the power of the peer coach. Now, I'm going to take you guys along my journey, and I want you guys to know and advise everyone of our future warnings. As peers and throughout, I found that speaking authentically about what I needed in my life, I had to say out loud. And it all started at what we now call Serenity Recovery Connection. And it hasn't stopped there. But I'm going to take you guys along on this journey to talk about what a peer coach is, the roles and responsibilities, what a peer coach isn't, the power of peer collaboration, the importance of integrating peer support into organizations successfully, where to find facilitators and peer support programs and training, building a supportive and inclusive community, a few testimonials and the takeaways, a few questions after you guys have it. So I grew up on 2214 Lafayette Street. I'm the oldest of 5. I have 3 brothers and I have a sister. And we grew up right here smack dab in Aurora, Colorado. And we became the Lindsay family. Now I have a lot of Lindsays in my family. There's like 25 males, and there's only 4 girls, and we're all athletic. We all receive scholarships. I graduated with a 4.2 GPA. I went to receive a full ride scholarship to play college basketball at Colorado Mesa University. And so did my brothers. They received degrees. They became the best versions of themselves as well. And being role models for them, I knew that I was somebody that they were going to look up to for the rest of their life. Now, as I got into playing sports, I was a rookie. And I played college basketball with the best. I scored 15 to 20 points a game, and I was on fire. But that slowly ended. Things started to diminish. One morning I woke up and I couldn't walk. My eyes were swollen, my joints were swollen, and nobody knew what was wrong with me. They rushed me to the emergency room. This is in the middle of my college basketball career as well. But they rushed me to the emergency room, and that was the day that they diagnosed me with myasthenia gravis, a muscular inflammatory condition that took me by surprise. When I got into the doctor's office, I knew my body was hurting, and I didn't know what was going on. They did a lot of tests, and they sent me back home, and more things started to happen, and I dropped to about 107 pounds in 3 weeks. I was 140 pounds before that. When I talked to the doctor that day, they told me, "I'm sorry, Miss Lindsay, but you're never gonna walk again." I took a deep breath and a pause. And I looked over at my grandmother, who happened to come with me to this doctor's appointment. She was crying out of one eye. And the only thing I could think of was, what do you mean I'm never going to walk again? What does that mean? So I looked at the doctor, and the doctor looked at me, and he said, you might as well start figuring out some other things to do. I hope you have something else planned, because this isn't happening. Well, if any of you guys know me, some of you guys do, I'd be pretty stubborn. And a lot of what I do in my life was based off of perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. So I went back home, talked to my father, and I said, hey, Dad. I said, well, I'm never going to walk again. He said, do you believe that? I said, no, I don't. So the next day, I started getting on the treadmill. If y'all would have seen me on this treadmill, y'all would have been like, now they said you can't walk. Why are you trying to walk? But instead, I got on the treadmill. It was a minute, and then I got off, and the attacks started happening to my body, and I could feel it. And then I'd get up again, and I was on that treadmill again, and I was determined, and I was just gonna make it. I was determined I was going to walk. And with that, I did. I walked again. I played 2 years of college basketball. I tried out for the WNBA. I almost signed to the Sparks, and I turned it down. So I am proud to say today that I have walked again, and I'm also 5 years sober. But I did. I received my bachelor's, and it was in communications with 2 concentrations, news editorial writing and public relations. I really didn't know why I wanted to talk. I didn't know what I was going to say. I said, well, communication sounds good. I said, I don't know what I'm going to use it for. Clearly, I know why now. So, I'm sure you're wondering, why did I turn down the WNBA? Well, at that time, I went to the tryout, and I was extra excited, and I did really well, and I went to sign, but my body, something else was going on with my body. And I felt like if I kept playing, maybe I might get really sick. I already, accomplished walking again, but maybe I needed to live my life a little bit more. So I went on ahead and I turned it down. And instead of the WNBA, I chose the corporate world. I climbed the ladder and became an HR executive for 3 big box retailers for 15 years. And during that 15 years, I was not only diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, but fibromyalgia, vitiligo, lupus, and Hashimoto's. I stand before you today with 5 autoimmune conditions. These things really, really were a big part to my addiction. Little did I know how sick I was at the time, and I just kept trudging through. I was using that resilience to make it. But in all reality, my body was tanking. Things started getting really, really hard for me. I was working, I was promoted, got everything you could think of. I felt like I was living the American dream. But through all of the pain and suffering silently, I really began to party. I began to drink with coworkers, and I spent my money like it was nothing. I woke up, took a few bumps, drank a few shots, and continued my day. I didn't start drinking until the age of 26. And a good friend introduced me to cocaine, and the rest was history. Now, once I was able to mix the two and add all of the drugs from time to time, the role model that I was for all those looking up to me had slowly felt like it was diminishing. In that time in corporate America, for me, I felt like I made it because I came out of school with a bachelor's making $65,000 to $68,000 a year. I felt like I was the fixer. When I came into corporate, they said, you know what? She's the fixer. She's going to make things happen. She's going to take care of stuff. She's going to do what she has to do. She's going to do what she has to do to make sure that this company and these four walls excel. You guys, I got so used to being the fixer that I actually started to believe I was the fixer of everything else but myself. That's what I was. The person who was willing to say yes to everything, the yes person. The person who was willing to stay long hours, would raise my hand and say, you know what, I got it, don't worry. What about boundaries, right? What about knowing that you could be off work if you needed to? Those things didn't happen. It was show up, show out, get it done. And if you don't know, ask Sparkle, she'll fix it. Now with that, being an African-American woman, Indigenous, LGBTQIA, I can tell you guys right now that I grew up with the H on my chest. It was called Handle It. I grew up with that. I grew up as a role model, as a big sister, as a team captain, as a leader. So you guys can only imagine why I believed I was the fixer of others. But I had neglected myself. I didn't even know who I was. I had no clue where I was going. I just knew I'd fix it. But you guys, there was this one day in particular that I was unable to have a few bumps before work or even take a few shots. I was extremely hungover and I was counting down the minutes to the day to be over. Y'all know how that was. So I remember it like it was yesterday. And as the HR executive at the time, there was an employee who needed help with housing. I had been working long and hard to help find him housing. So going to work would be easier for him, you know? He had been missing for a few weeks. And that morning, I received information that they found housing for him. Now, as he came through the door that day, I wanted to share the good news with him. So I ran to the office, I grabbed the email, I got to him, went to talk to him, kind of shrugged his shoulders. He said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I noticed in the mannerisms, you know, that something just was kind of off. And I continued this path. I said, okay, I'll just wait for him at the bathroom. So as I was walking to the bathroom, I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach, and it just didn't feel right. You know, I walked closer to the bathroom. I stood next to the bathroom. Thought for a second, maybe I'll wait 10 minutes. Waited a few more minutes. I decided to make the decision to open the door. I opened the door, and he shot himself. I fainted. When I finally came to, there were three things that came to my mind. Am I alive? Am I okay? What just happened? And when can I get my next hit? Now this, my friends, is how most trauma for us peers begins. It may not be like mine. Some of it may be far worse. But this day right here, you guys, it changed my life forever. After that day, I refused therapy. And we'll talk about therapy. I've had therapy for 4.5 years. But right before all of this happened, I was kind of told as a young child that therapy was a sign of weakness. I was told that saying that something was wrong or that you were okay showed weakness. So I was afraid to say I needed help. So I turned down the therapy. And all of a sudden, the nightmares started coming. I mean, I couldn't sleep. I was doing cocaine to stay up, just so that I could, what I thought was function. But in all reality, I was dying inside. Now, refusing therapy, I continued using. I went to jail 7 times. I got a 6-year prison sentence that was overturned, thank God. I was soon called into the offices for work. And you guys, y'all know what I thought. They're about to fire me. I know they're gonna fire me. I've been using around the clock. I've been working nonstop. I'm having nightmares. I don't even know how I'm making it to work. And I'm accomplishing things like no other. You know, so many accolades, so many different awards. Sparkle's shining here. She's the fixer here. It's like I had to upkeep everything just to live. I just had to do everything the same exact way to make sure that it looked good to everyone else. But inside, I was dying slowly. When I walked into the room, there was a whole bunch of people in there, and they did not look like they wanted to fire me. I tell y'all that. Instead, they looked happy. There was a table that was sitting right in the middle of the room. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the table, and I look at my boss, and I look at the table, and he says, "Have a seat." So I sit down. There's a white piece of paper on the table. I look at him, he says, "Turn it over." I turn it over. The piece of paper said, 125K. We want to promote you. I say, what? In my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute, these people about to fire me. Well, that showed me right there. It wasn't about what I looked like. It wasn't about who I was. I was getting the job done. Whatever it took. It didn't matter what my life looked like. At that moment in time, I said, it doesn't matter. If I die today, they're gonna replace somebody and put them in my place anyway. So I looked at them and I paused long and I thought hard about everything. You guys, everything you could think of was going through my head. Now, I could take this job. It's 125K. I could sustain this addiction for a pretty long time. I could pay some bills off. I could continue to get high. I could do this. Seems like nobody cares what happens anyway. But then I remembered the feeling of being in a room full of people yelling as loud as I could, and no one was listening. My response to him was, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to turn this down. Right now, I'm not well. And if I keep this up, I'm not gonna make it. He said, of course you will. You're the fixer. You're Sparkle. You can do it. Go hold your position. I said, I'm not well. This day was the last day. I put in my notice. And I've never returned to corporate America ever again. Now, what is a peer coach? Let's talk about it. You guys, when I left that room, after I left and said, I'm not doing this anymore, I walked out nervous, but I felt stronger. I felt and still feel that no amount of money will ever take the place of me. No amount of money. Used to be this person who was like, we gotta make this money, I gotta do this, we gotta shuffle, we gotta get things done. I used to be this person, and now I look at it and say, but if I don't have myself, I'm not gonna have this money anyway. It was a real harsh reality for me. So, I decided, bro, you better get it right. I was in jail. Obviously, I went back to jail. And I was sitting in there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of on the ground there, and I'm thinking, no one is coming. What are you gonna do, Sparkle? You're gonna have to get yourself out of this. You got yourself in this mess. How you gonna get yourself out of it? I got out of jail. 3 weeks later, I decided to go to treatment. I decided to get sober. I began my journey at Parker Valley Hope, and then I continued and finished at Peaks Recovery. The owner of Peaks Recovery, during my graduating of the program, he asked me what I wanted to do with my life. The crazy thing is that I had no money whatsoever, by the way. I had no money. I was in treatment at Peaks Recovery with no money. I sat there, and every day I thought he was going to ask me. I thought somebody was going to hand me a bill, y'all. I was waiting for it. No one ever asked me. I went through the program, and I fought hard to take my life back. I continued. And in that graduating program, when I stood up, I still didn't have a bill. And I'm thinking in my head, I know they're about to give me this bill sometime or another, because they gave me so much. They allowed me to have so much to grow, to be this person I deserve to be. And I was 3 months sober, 4 months sober at the time. I'm giving a speech, and I'm telling everybody how I appreciate it. And I believe Springs Recovery Connection was there at the time. They all came and seen my graduation. But afterwards, he passed me an envelope. And right when we sat down, I said, oh, here comes the bill. He said, open it up. I opened it up, and I start turning it. And I'm looking, I done racked up some time, y'all. We talking about money. I done racked up some money. Looking. And I kind of stopped. I said, well, can I do it? He said, just get all the way through it. I said, okay. So I get through it. He says, read the back. I read the back, and he said, your recovery is priceless. No amount of money can ever replace you. He said, you remember that. I will forever and always remember Chris Burns. Me and him are still very close. He comes out of Colorado Springs. He is the person that turned me on to peer coaching. He is the person that introduced me to Serenity Recovery Connection. He is the person that told me to come talk to Kathy Plush at the time and let her know I wanted to be a peer coach. I called, and the master trainer at that time, Luke Johnson, he said, hey, come on in. Let's do this. You gonna learn how to do it? It's recovery month. We're gonna take some off. You can learn how you want. So I was excited. I had my little bags, like I was starting school again. And I know that all of you guys who have taken the training, you guys probably had that, look, she said, whoop, whoop, whoop. You guys probably had that excitement feeling, right? Like I'm about to learn. It was so exciting to know what I didn't know. I was excited to be a peer, but I didn't know why I was going to be a peer. And with that, I started my classes September 1st of 2019, and I was 6 months sober at the time. One thing I can say about being 6 months sober and taking the courses, I learned so much about me. Self-reflection was real. I got in there and I said, didn't nobody tell me this was going to be 70 hours of self-reflection? I said, it's kind of heavy, Luke. He said, well, to be a peer coach, it takes getting to know yourself first. He said, it takes being able to put the mask, or that oxygen mask, on your face first before you put it on anybody else's. He said, it's about filling your cup and only giving the abundance of what you have, not all of it. He said, it's a lot of work and it takes a balance. So I went out there. I got my classes. First day of class, I had 8 people. Those 8 people I still talk to today. They're peers. And at that time, remember, I was 6 months sober. Now, CCAR states that a recovery coach is anyone that is interested in promoting recovery by removing barriers and obstacles to recovery. A peer coach is a coach that walks alongside individuals seeking recovery from any addiction, mental health, cancer, etc. It's a way to keep lived experience alive while maintaining structure in workplaces. As I continued my journey, we talked about the roles and responsibilities. And in class, we talked about understanding our roles and staying in our lane. And as peers, this is probably one of the most important things we will ever know. One of the most important things I ever learned as a peer. There were things that I knew I shouldn't do because it wasn't in my area. Being able to know what my responsibilities were helped me to become a force to be reckoned with in the peer world. We believe in change. We motivate. We encourage. We celebrate people that we work with. We're allies. We're loyal. We care. How many of you guys in here know how much we care? We will go to the ends for one another. We don't sugarcoat things. We tell the truth, y'all. That's right. We provide honest information. We offer suggestions. We're role models. But if you notice, everything we do, we offer, we suggest, we help. We help people help themselves through positive transformation, one step at a time, daily. We help them help themselves. That is what we do. We don't have to do anything for them, but walk the talk, be the light, inspire those around us to do exactly what they need to do to be the best versions of themselves every day and continue that journey. We identify problem areas. We assist the recovery to find the problem areas. But we don't ever tell a person how to do their recovery. There's no right or wrong way to this. I'm sure all of you guys have your own multiple pathways to recovery. I do. I created my complete recovery package, and I enjoyed every bit of it, and I still do. Adding more to my cup, adding more people to help me. Takes a village, right? Understanding that. We're a lifestyle supporter. We offer feedback. We focus on wellness. We talk about healthy choices. And sometimes, you can have a conversation about healthy choices, right? But are we really having a healthy choices conversation? Getting underneath all of these roles and responsibilities, losing yourself as a peer in these roles, understanding that you can be each and every one of these roles any way you choose to show up. That's the power of the peer. We get to be who we are and find our art to peer coaching and then rocking. We're resource gurus. I like to use the word gurus because we like to get the resources. We have the linkage to the community outlets. We have all the resources. I remember when I first started, I was like, I'm a little worried about the resources because I don't know anyone. Well, now I look up in a room and I feel like I know everyone. There's people I've called, had conversations with. Next thing you know, they're calling me, Sparkle, I need 6 beds. We got 6 beds we need to fill. I'm moving people around. We're doing everything. Before you know it, you're in the mix. You become the resource guru. You become the one that knows all the new beds, all the new things that are opening up. You become that person. And you feel like a resource. You feel like you are a resource when people call to ask you. But you don't have to feel like the fixer, just the resource. We advocate. I love to advocate. We advocate for the community. We advocate for recoveries. You guys, we advocate for ourselves. And we're community liaisons. We walk alongside people. And we help them establish the support network they want. And lastly, we are good friends. Now, what a peer coach is not. peer coach is not a sponsor. We're not lawyers. We're not therapists. We're not many therapists. I've heard people say that. We're not counselors. We're not nurses and doctors. We're not priests or ministers or rabbis. We're not any of those. But those are all our resources. Those are all the people that create the village. Being able to be at the table with recovery's therapists and their case managers and their probation officers and being in the thick of these conversations, speaking from a peer's point of view and being able to speak from our hearts and speak from our minds and letting people know that have those professions, what we're truly thinking is a blessing. It is one of those things that makes you feel like when you walk in a room, if you ever hear somebody say it, they go, man, I don't know, I'm not a peer coach. I just don't have that thing. We're relatable, understandable. We have compassion. We love. We're empathetic. We shed layers and layers of trust and understanding with one another, and also with the people who want to know and they just seek to understand more. That is who we are. So as we continue, let's talk about power of peer collaboration. Let's talk about it. I want to draw each of your attention to the power of the peer in the field of mental health and addiction. We have to first and foremost have togetherness. I mean, coming together as individuals, whether you're a peer coach or not. Listening to each other's lived experiences as a collective. Getting lost in the peer coach's stories, listening to where they're coming from, asking them those good questions, right? Our peer coaches have stories just like the people they're helping. And as a company that's hiring peer coaches, seek to understand their passions, their goals, their intentions. Do they have or need a succession plan? Are they working their own program? We want our peer coaches to be the best peer coaches they can be. Do they have their program? Are they pouring from an empty cup? If they're pouring from an empty cup, we've got to do something better. Do they understand that they have support and help to get back on track if they fall upon a reoccurrence? I can tell you this, when I felt valued and understood and supported and cared for, my creativity transpired. And as a peer, there were many, many of you guys along the way with me that walked with me, and you allowed my creativity to transpire. And it was because I felt valued. It was because I felt that you understood I could not overwork myself. Because you guys understood that in order for me to help others, I had to help myself first. This was the gift that I was given with this crew and other crews of people in Colorado and other states as well. Feeling valued gave me a sense of understanding, and it allowed me to have space to expand my mind to greater lengths. It boosted morale in the organization I worked for, in the workplaces. It built a bond, it built unity. And once bonded through that unity, the power of the peer coach and the organizations that everyone works for begins to work together as a collective unit. We produce strength and empowerment. We become stable and consistent. We are where our feet are. We become a force to be reckoned with, together as one. One mind, one body, one spirit. And as we're able to do that, we just keep adding, and we keep multiplying, and we keep multiplying. And together we have to hold on to one another so we're going to unite. The synergy from working with different organizations was awesome, because whether I had a mess, whether something was going on, whether I needed to talk about my own life, whether I needed to talk about somebody else's life, whatever it was, the organization was there to hold me up. I'll never forget the first time I lost a recovery. It was right in the middle of the pandemic. And in the middle of that pandemic, I had a recovery. It was 3 months sober. I was at the time maybe about a year and a half sober, and I had really just started getting to know my art. And I got a call that she took fentanyl, and she died instantly. Her boyfriend fled the scene. She had 2 kids. I was angry. I was mad. I went back. I actually went back to my organization. I felt like I could pick something up and throw it. And my mentor at the time said, "Hey, sit down. You're going to have to sit in this anger. You're going to have to feel this. 85% of us don't make it, Sparkle. 15% of us do. You've got to understand how powerful these drugs and alcohol are. But I will not allow you to go back out there for a little bit, for a while, because I want to make sure you're okay too." At that time, the company didn't have, because I'm telling you, we was doing all kinds of different things as peers. We were trying to figure out where to find our stuff. And there was times when Kathy was like, "Sparkle, you're going to go try to get into the justice centers today. Or how about we try to do the emergency room today?" There were so many different elements going on as peers. But we also didn't have succession plans for peers, or we didn't have bereavement for peers. If they went through losing someone, how did that make them feel? Just because they're a peer coach, that doesn't mean they don't have feelings. I actually had nightmares from that. That was the first recovery I ever lost. I started thinking in my head, did I do something wrong? Maybe I'm really not that, maybe I need to stop while I'm ahead. And the only thing that kept me going was the fact that they said, this happens to everyone. And no, we don't get used to it. But we learn to sit in our emotions. We learn to walk through it, knowing that emotions are temporary, not permanent. And then we get back out there and we try it again. Now, I don't know if I would have had that conversation with anybody else. Honestly, I don't really know where I would be right now. I got close to that shame and guilt and a close spiral, and it scared me. But overall, I learned a lot from it, and it made me stronger as a woman. It made me stronger. I kept fighting every day. I think by the time I really realized what it was, I was about 2 years of sobriety. And then before you know it, I started feeling like I could facilitate. And I could share the wealth and share the wealth of this beautiful curriculum with peers like yourselves. And then I started thinking of the importance of integrating peer support into organizations successfully. And today, I stand before you to also shed light on a topic of major importance. Integrating peers into organization involves having a peer support supervisor that supports and helps peer coaches to not only integrate into organizations successfully, but also ensure peer coaches consider their organization a place to call home. Peer coaches need to be able to discuss things about work and life openly to continue their growth as well. We have to be able to say when something is going on and not be ridiculed for it. We have to be able to say, I don't feel good today. I need help. We have to be able to do that without feeling like we may lose our jobs. All of us in recovery know that we have beautiful disasters out here. And sometimes we just need somebody to listen. You don't have to ridicule us, just listen. The diversity of peer coaching is invaluable. And it brings together individuals from various backgrounds and cultures and experiences. Support is the foundation upon peer coaches that we stand on. Support. They help to provide safe spaces for individuals to express their thoughts, their fears, and their aspirations without judgment. Then there's that word, 5 letters, as powerful as ever, trust. Peer coaching fosters trust among its members, the organizations. This creates an atmosphere where vulnerability is embraced and confidentiality is honored. And lastly, don't forget that consistency piece, because being consistent and stable as peer coaches is the key to offering our presence in individual lives and consistently providing ongoing encouragement and guidance. Now, a lot of stuff, we talk about peer training, we talk about being facilitators. And one thing I want to say is please be sure to reach out to our Co-Providers Association to figure out what facilitators are on there, okay? A lot of people right now don't entirely know that. We want you to go the whole way. Get your Colorado Peer and Family Specialist. Become NADAC, become your National Certified Peer Support Specialist. Come on now, get it. Get those credentials. I tell you now, the credentials I have, all of the above. We want to make sure that you guys as peer coaches, and I want to make sure you understand this as well. Advancement is key. Development is growth. You own your own development. And although you're a peer coach now, who knows what you might want to be later. Make sure those credentials work for you and make sure you have them. Take those exams, cover it up, cover yourself. There's a process that goes with this. You need 500 hands-on experience hours. Other places you need 200 hands-on experience hours. Get that experience. Couldn't lie about the things I've seen, and I had to experience them with love and support. So building a supportive and inclusive community that creates togetherness is us building an environment free of ridicule. We show hope and belief in our peer coaches, right? Once again, be sure to have succession plans and room for growth and advancement. Try and work hard to find benefit plans that help with healthcare and give your peer coaches the chance to continue to take care of themselves. Self-care is the best care, right? If we do these things as organizations, we'll be better for it. When it comes to retention and growth in the peer coach, we'll be rocking. Now, I've had the luxury of training in 4 years, 750 coaches across the globe. And I know there's a few of you guys out here who have done more. I mean, Advocates for Recovery. I remember growing up and watching this program grow, and I was like, man, I want to do what Tanya does. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I looked at the fact that if 750 of those coaches, a lot of them have had about 15 clients that they've worked with, in about 4 years, you get 11,250 people walking alongside each other to help each other help themselves. This is just my company alone. The value of the peers has been recognized across the globe. And here are a few testimonials from some of the coaches out there with their boots on the ground. It says, peer coaching means to me the opportunity to give back to people that are exactly in the same spot that I once was. It allows me to share my heart and my experience in hopes that I can help somebody pull themselves out of the mud. That was Jerry. Being a peer coach is being a friend, a confidant, a support, and resource for people who are wanting to work to become the best versions of themselves. To be a peer coach is showing the people I am working with that they can succeed in their life by not giving up on them and believing in the pathway that is best fit for them. And the last one, being a peer coach means giving back, sharing my experience, and most of all, walking alongside a person to help guide them in their journey to finding their own form of recovery. So what are the takeaways for today? The power of the peer collaboration, it is crucial to recognize the power of the peer. By leveraging the knowledge, the experiences, skills, and training programs of peer coaches, we can see this nation taking the power of the peer to the next level. With peer coach succession plans and support, we know that coaches will be better equipped for the day-to-day, knowing they have support as well. Building collective togetherness is important. Maintaining and gelling as a team in the workplace is key. We are only as strong as our weakest link. We must move the needle forward by believing in each other and becoming a well-oiled machine within the four walls of the companies. Like I said, one mind, one body, one spirit. To integrate peer support into organizations, it's important to understand that this is not just a mere addition, folks. But it is a transformational approach that enhances the lives of individuals seeking help on all facets. And with the gift of coaches, we can all cultivate hope, optimism, diversity, support, trust, and consistency. Let us embrace the powerful tool to create a culture of compassion, understanding, and empowerment within our organizations. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of those willing to take the first steps to helping themselves daily through positive transformation, one step at a time. Thank you.